Hey, folks, welcome to the 25th episode of the Knock and Talk Show. I, of course, am your host, Patrick Faulkner. And in this episode, we have John Stamp joining us. He is a former NCIS as well as FBI agent, worked in the local law enforcement in the Charleston area, and currently a novelist, putting out some pretty incredible fiction stories based in the law enforcement realm. And in this episode, we're going to be discussing how to wrangle and herd alligators, as well as sea monsters and how to ward off charging ostriches. All this and more. So we'll catch you right after this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 25th episode of the Knock and Talk Show. I, of course, am your host, Patrick Faulkner, and today I have an awesome guest lined up for you. John Stamp is with us, and he is a former NCIS agent, may even know Gibbs, and an FBI agent as well, former police officer and current writer, novelist. I can't wait to jump into the weeds and find out what kind of stories we have from the Phoebes and the other alphabets. So, John, man, welcome to the show.
I appreciate it, Patrick. Thanks for having me on. But yeah, I'm big on acronyms, so
Oh,
be
are
ready
you?
to catch me on those.
All right.
It's a habit. I was actually in a meeting the other day, and I threw something out, and it just stopped the entire meeting. They're like, "Can you explain that?" Sure can. Just
Sure.
give me a minute. Yeah. So yeah, it's I played around a little bit. I tell people, that I started as a police officer. That's pretty much since I was about 10 years old. I was pretty sure that's what I was going to do.
Okay.
And it was for no other reason than you're looking around, looking at what could be fun to do for a living. And I remember being a kid in upstate New York, and it's snow at night, wintertime, dark, cold, but you always see that lone cruiser just rolling down the street, and it would just pop in my head. I'm like, what's that dude getting into?
Mm-hmm.
He's not sitting in an office. He's not. He's definitely not going to be bored. He's running around the dark by himself. There's going to be something cool going on.
Yeah. Maybe
So.
even run into Batman in the dark.
Well, he definitely had the Batman starter kit on. It just
There
got bigger
you
over
go.
time. Yeah.
Well, John, why don't you give us your elevator speech, your introduction? Let us know a little bit about who you are, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. Real quick, I just like I said, I knew I was going to be a police officer at some point, and I ended up working in city of Charleston, South Carolina. Ended up there, partied a little too much in college my freshman year, and so a buddy of mine and we migrated south to complete the bachelor's degree. He went to the Citadel first, and was
Okay.
like, "Hey man, you got to come down to the Citadel with me. It's awesome down here." I'm like, "You wear a wool suit in August, bud. I'm not doing that." But I got the appeal of the city, so I was like, "Yeah, I'll find something." So I found a college there that had a criminal justice program, and through being there, I jumped in. The CPD had a reserve program, so
Okay.
get on that, and you're there for the fun. When the paperwork and all the boring stuff starts, you just punch out and go home because they won't let you do any paperwork anyway. So I had a
Nice.
skewed view of policing, right?
Okay.
so
Yes. Yes.
I'd show up, run the calls, and boogie. And then after that, it was get on board, and just 9/11 happens. I tell people that every now and then that I probably saw too many movies and decided I had to be a Fed. And then I follow that closely up with, I'm not sure the FBI was looking at applications as fast as they should have been after 9/11, because I get to Quantico that first night, and there's 50 people in my class, and I'm sitting with a doctor of microbiology to my right, and there's 4 cops to my left. There was only 5 of us in the whole class, and of course we immediately bunched together and
Yep.
back to back. Let's figure out what's going on here before we
Yes.
before we settle in. But all around this class, I'm seeing these people: lawyers, Wall Street people, a couple other doctors, military, officers and enlisted, and all these people as they're, they're doing the get to know me speech walking around. I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, I'm like, there's some pretty high caliber people hanging out here. I'm like, I don't know. I like elbow my buddy. I'm like, I don't know if we're in the right room, pal.
What room did we stumble into?
Yeah. Do they know who I am?
I picture that scene from Spies Like Us. Doctor.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Pretty much like, man, these are people who paid attention in college.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, no, I stayed with them. Bureau, I went up to Buffalo field office, worked organized crime and narcotics, bank robberies for half that time. And then talk started of, career pathing and moving from medium offices to big offices after a certain period of time. So I jumped over. I was like, I got to try the counterintelligence thing. I have no idea what that is. Jumped in, tried that for about half my time there. And then they had a policy where if you started in a medium office, you had to go to a big office. So I was like staring on the barrel of New York City or Chicago or DC, and I'm not a city guy. And in Buffalo, as a young agent, you can run the cases. I was running Title III wiretaps my first year and a half on the job, and I just had this in my head that I'm going to go to 1,000-person office and like who knows, but I didn't feel like I'd be the case agent that I got to be in Buffalo because I had a great training officer. I had great people around me that would let me do stuff. So one night I'm on my way home, and the HR for NCIS calls, and because I put in with Bureau and NCIS at the same time. Bureau called first, and so they're like, "Yeah, are you still interested?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll talk to you." And they're like, "Well, we were thinking Pensacola, Florida." And I'm driving home in a blizzard, looking at a massive city to go live in. And I'm like, Pensacola, Florida. So I'm like, we had no kids at the time. And the international travel that NCIS offered was, pretty awesome. Yeah. And I just asked my wife, I'm like, hey, what do you think about Pensacola, Florida? It's same gig, same retirement, different cases to work. I can work anything, She's like, and I go, we can also go to like Hawaii, maybe. She's like, yeah, let's do it. So
okay,
I just jumped up, joined NCIS in Pensacola, and spent a few years with them. And in those few years, I think it was 7 years with them, I got to go to 9 different countries, and worked a bunch of different cases. Fell in love with forensics. Well, I fell in love with crime scene. With the FBI, I was on the ERT, the evidence response team with them, and I just nerded out when it came to the crime scene stuff. Because at CPD, they wouldn't let us guys on patrol do it. We had roving crime scene units. We didn't even have like dust or anything. So it was, you get a B&E or something simple like that. They call in the crime scene unit, and I'd always be like the little kid following the senior in high school around, being like, what do you do now? What do you do now? What do you do now? So then I got to actually be on the team. I was like, this is pretty freaking awesome. And that's how I ended up getting my master's. I ended up going into forensics. It was just wonderful. And in NCIS, you got to work a bunch more just because the focus ended up being personal crimes more often than not and stuff like that. But yeah, that's so I also tell people I probably had a little ADHD when it comes to law enforcement because I wanted to do like everything. So like go on patrol, get that going. Then an opening on the negotiator team comes up. I'm like, hey, Lieutenant, I want to do that. He's like, you only been here like a year. I'm like, I still want to do it.
Yeah,
This gig pops up or a TDY pops up. I'm like, hey, I'm going to go do this. So, okay. Nobody else wants to do it. So I got to I would leverage that into, like going to work at the National Counterterror Center or going to work. I got shanghaied into the Hoover Building for 3 months at one point.
Wow.
But it's just you take with it those experiences of working in those places and getting to be a part of those worlds for a little bit. It was really helped. I think it helped as far as the writing goes, which I kind of. Yeah, and once the kids started coming, life changed a little bit. We had to find a little more permanent structure than moving around every 3 years. So moved into that phase of life, and I found that when I finished my graduate degree about the same time, and I had about 2-3 hours a day where I'd come in before work, get the research done, get the writing done, whatever I had to do. I'd get that finished, and when I finished my degree, I still am waking up in that mode of it's time to go to work, 3 hours before anything else happens. So I always kind of wanted to try the writing game. So I sketched out a novel, and I gave myself a goal of 500 words a day, using that time that I was using for studying and researching and writing. And I just put that towards writing that novel. Like 7 months later, I had a draft, and I'd get it done. I'm like, wow, like I actually I think I put a story together. And I show Mom, she's like, you actually put a story together. So I was like, that was fun. Let's do it again. And now I'm on my 7th.
Wow.
Yeah.
7th.
So I just started doing it, and as long as the ideas kept coming, I was like, let's do it. Let's just keep rolling. And
so are the books fiction or nonfiction?
it's all fiction. It's all
Okay.
just I preface it by saying I write the movies that I would want to watch. If I'm reading a book, I want it to be fun, fast, exciting, probably a little bit of a dark side, and I try to throw in some humor here every now and then, but just that I want people to read and have fun. And then when they're done, I want them to be like a little worn out, because I want it to be that fast paced to them, but I want them to, as long as they have fun reading these books, I'm cool with it. So
Okay.
yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. And like you said, the podcast thing is brand new. I'm 10 episodes in. I call it That's Criminal with John Stamp. Aimed at kind of the true crime life, or the crime thrillers, writing books, all that stuff around that crime fiction or true crime gauge, so to speak. So,
Okay.
and that all came from talking to people like you, my new book, Blood Red Ivory, doing podcasts and talking to media. And I just start talking to guys and be like, hey, this seems fun. Like, you get to talk to new people and have fun conversations. How do you do it? And they're like, well, this. And I'm like, all right, let's try it. So I just threw all that together and I was like, record.
Record.
See what happens.
Yes. You got to start somewhere. And I have an absolute blast doing this, because like you said, I get to meet cool, new, interesting people, hear new stories. Funny stories is what the show's about, but still new and exciting new people all the time, every episode. And you, my friend, have had probably one of the most eclectic law enforcement careers of anybody that, well, certainly anybody that's been on the show, but within my network. I have to know, did you have a probie?
Actually, never officially.
Never officially.
I did 2 years. I did 2 years on patrol, and then I got kidnapped into public housing for a little bit, and then I ended up the narcotics guys picked me up, so I ended up that patrol position is where that FTO piece is. And I had like 2 years on, but I would get a rookie every now and then, and it's I don't know if it was good for the rookie or not, but every time I got a second person in the car, I was like, hey man, we got automatic backup. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go see what happens.
Yeah.
And we would do that with the rest of the squad whenever, we weren't getting just pummeled with calls or something like that. But you get a double shift day, or you link up with county, and then it's let's go find some stolen cars. Let's go see what we can get into. But so it might not have been good for rookies, and but I never was officially an FTO for anybody. Yeah.
Well, what about in your NCIS days?
No, it was the same. I would have them with me, like I would have them with me, but I didn't take on the FTO role at any point. I moved around a lot. Like, I spent a year and a half in Pensacola, and then 3 years. No, I guess it was more than that. It was probably 2 years in Pensacola, another 3 years in a contingency response group, and then I moved up to Syracuse, New York. The federal government sent me home twice in my career. Like, I went from Charleston to Buffalo, which was 2 hours from home in the Finger Lakes in New York, and then I got done with that last assignment, which was down here in Georgia, and they had an opening for somebody to work in Syracuse, New York, and that was like an hour from where I grew up. I was like, let's do it. Let's move up there. And so I took my South Carolina wife to Buffalo one time, and then to Syracuse the next time. And after a couple of years up there, we're it's interesting working cases, primarily sex assault, some fraud stuff, some other stuff. But just one day, we have a brand new baby boy, and our plan was always go to Syracuse, do 3 years there, and then we were thinking Japan, Hawaii, Northwest. They've never lived there. And then back, and it's getting close to that 20-year mark. And we just look at each other one day, and it's like, the logistics of moving kids around the world every few years, just suddenly we wanted to plant roots. And so we came back to Georgia and took a permanent gig. And so I got off the train of moving around every 3 years. But with NCIS, that was one of the big draws and at the time, before kids come, that's all
why
it is.
not?
Let's move around
Yeah.
the world, work cool cases,
Yeah.
So our plan was pretty stout that we could have done that Japan, Hawaii, Northwest easily. It's just suddenly we both just wanted to raise that kid in one environment and let him grow up, and it's just the way the world works. You never see it coming. But
No.
yeah.
What did your wife think of the snow, real snow in winter, like
She was
bales
thr- she
and
was-
bales and bales?
She was thrilled. Yeah.
Was she the whole time, or just the first winter?
Oh no, her birthday is in June. So that first winter we got up to Buffalo for the first time in about it was about January. And so she gets to Buffalo in the wintertime. And then it's like June, it's around her birthday. She calls me on her birthday and she goes, "Hey, it's my birthday today." I was like, "I know, I didn't forget. Like, I got this covered. Man. Don't worry about it." And she goes, "No, it's snowing." I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's June.
What?
It's still snowing in Buffalo." I'm like, "You're right.
Really?
Yeah." I didn't notice. I thought you liked it. No, no. So yeah, she was a good sport though. She was always down. She only actually told me no on, like you said, the eclectic career. Because they tell you never volunteer for anything, but that's just I think curiosity has always gotten the better of me. So anything cool comes up, I'd be like, yeah, let's do it. So, but there was a deal at the Bureau where at the time, if you took 5 years up in Alaska in the field office, I think it wasn't junior, I think it was Anchorage. It was 5 years, and then you get your officer preference after that. So I was like, I come home, like I'm all excited. I'm like, hey, let's go to Alaska for 5 years. We'll come back, and you can go back to Charleston. We can maybe go to Charlotte. We get the officer preference. She's like, absolutely not. She's like,
Absolutely not.
And we're sitting in Buffalo at the time, so I might have overplayed my hand.
You might have.
Yeah. So this is the only time she ever told me no was. But any other of my crazy ideas, she's like, yeah, let's try it out. Let's see what happens. So
That's cool.
it's a good thing. We were both down for the travel and the excitement of just doing something new. So it all worked out. And as a civil servant, people always say you always get your first pick in wherever you go, but my first pick was Buffalo and then Syracuse. So I was like, I get my first pick all the time, but nobody else wants to go there. So
Easy.
Yeah. You can blame me all you want, but that grenade goes off like a poof. It's not like a boom.
It's a boom. Or where was your favorite assignment?
It's always going to be when when I was pushing a cruiser at midnight. That's always that'll never change. No matter how much fun I get into, it's always been having the squad. You work in midnight shift, and no idea what's happening next. And it could be just a beautiful night, or suddenly out of nowhere you guys leave from sharing a coffee and I go left, he goes right, and suddenly the guy who just went left is in a pursuit. And I'm like,
right,
buddy, the streets were clear like 2 seconds ago. How did you find this person?
Yes, that's the way, especially if if you're a shit magnet. Sorry, Mom. But if you're a shit magnet, you just you turn the corner and there it is. Whatever it is, there it is.
That's exactly,
and it goes from
one of my
0
best
to
friends,
100.
Yep, one of my best squad mates. That's exactly what he did. It'd be nice and peaceful, and he'd just go left and be like, "Okay, here we go,
here we go, turn around."
Yeah, I don't know what you did, but let's go. It's always Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, all the popo that I have on the show, I asked them a question regarding their rain gear. There's 2 types of officers. There's tuckers and untuckers. Were you a tucker?
As far as the no, I was
in the gun behind the gun belt. You tuck the raincoat.
It depended. It never got cold enough in Charleston to need the big big burly Super Troopers coat. Mm-hmm. So I usually would go. We had really cool kind of blacked out sweaters where even the shield was muted, so it'd be It get real
Oh.
dark, so it was really good for sneaking around back then.
Yeah.
Probably not really good for identifying your presence
Oh.
on hindsight, but this is a long time ago.
Right.
And we also had just windbreakers. They were like the cool FBI gold and blue, except they said CPD across them.
Okay.
So they didn't attract cameras as much as the FBI ones do. But
Right.
no,
Right.
I would wear that, and I would tuck that in the belt. But
Okay.
if I'm stuck rainy day, just downpour, I had the old duster, the big monster duster, black on the outside, orange on the inside,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd roll with that one like a Wild West cowboy and just keep bundled up as much as possible.
Well, you had the coastal gales that I didn't encounter those in Metro Atlanta. We just had we call them the banana jackets. They were just yellow with black lettering on them. And some people tucked, other people didn't tuck. I just found it interesting that I could narrow down police officers into this type of two categories, tucker or untucker. What was, speaking of night shift or midnights, you go through the roll call, you get your assignment, you find what your beat's going to be. Sarge says, all right, guys, go forth, do well. What song pumped you up as soon as you crank the cruiser up?
I heard it I remember that when you asked that question, and back in then this is like early 2000s. This is right around 9/11, and I remember, and it just came on the other day, right after I was reading the little questionnaire you sent out, and there was Saliva's click click boom,
Click,
and
click,
then
boom.
POD, any kind of anything POD,
Okay.
and then and back in that time, it was I remember because my kid heard it and he just fell in love. Which this might come back to haunt me, but Limp Bizkit's "My Way"
Okay.
was so that was a jam of the time. That's a jam
Right.
music of the time. So
Right.
we called it the 1080 music. It was
Okay.
It was like, let's go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep,
1080s. Yeah, those were always fun. I think that's synonymous with most agency and 10 codes. And if it's not, chase, foot chase, car chase. Yeah. So what, being in a coastal town, working nights, what was the craziest thing you saw?
You know what? When I was on patrol, I wasn't downtown. I was on the island, the Barrier Islands.
Oh, wow.
And it was
Okay.
so if downtown, they'd have the bars and tourists and all that stuff. So we out there though, it was the random stuff. Like, and I'll tell you, and I wrote down a list when you said what's the craziest stuff, and I always remember stuff as in just those random things that the person who isn't wearing that uniform probably will never experience, and the dumbest, not dumbest, the funny, but the one that always stands out in my mind is my buddy calls one day, and we had a Wapu River that kind of ran right between the mainland and James Island. And 3 o'clock in the morning, he's out there, and we're all just roving, just seeing what's up. And he calls in that he's got an abandoned vehicle right here at this cut. That's a boat launch, basically just a dirt spit. That kind of is a tiny little peninsula. So I roll out there, and yeah, there's an empty truck sitting there, and but it's not the windows aren't rolled up, and it's either somebody just got roasted and dropped this thing without thinking that it might rain tonight,
Yeah.
or
Okay.
our thought immediately goes to, great, there's somebody stumbled into this water, and let's start looking. So he goes one way, I'll go the other way, and I got my big mag light, and I'm just shining along the coast, and there's no reeds or anything like that, so it just drops right into the water. And I'm just looking and trying to shine out, looking for silhouettes and stuff. And I just turned to I heard my buddy say something. I turn, and when I turn back, all the water right at my feet explodes about 7 feet right in front of my face. It just boom. And it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I've already been working like probably 7-8 hours running calls and stuff.
Yeah.
And when this happens, I'm pretty sure I could have cracked a wine glass with the octave of my voice when that happens. So I jump back. I'm like, whatever eek
Whatever
came
noise,
out
yes.
of me, whatever eek. I'm just whoop. I break leather. I'm just like, there's a sea monster coming to get me. Like, I don't know what just happened. But even the craziest drunk would not have jumped out at me with an 8-foot plume of water. So I jumped back and was like, what is happening? And my buddy behind me is like, what's going on? I was like, I don't know. He's like, He's like, and then right as we're both like composing, a dolphin goes about 15 feet offshore and just spouts. And I was
Wow.
like, there's no way that just happened. And he's like, what did you do? I'm like, well, apparently I almost shot a dolphin. I don't know. I'm like, and I'm like, but it was
Poor
right
Flipper.
here. Like the whole river just exploded in my face. And he's like, that's a weird one. So we get back and we're sitting around and we're telling the Sarge that all this just happened. He's like, you didn't know that these guys just come up and like eat shrimp and stuff right on the shoreline? I'm like, I'm from upstate New York, dude. We don't have dolphins. We don't have dolphins in upstate New York. But this guy, apparently, I spooked him. He spooked me, and he just came up like to check me out, just saying, "What is this idiot human doing standing on the shoreline?" But yeah, it was. I consider myself a pretty composed person under stressful situations. I don't do sea monsters, so that was just. It was just one of those things. I was like, I don't know what's happening, but this is not natural.
No, they make scary movies that start this way.
That's exactly right. I've seen Jaws, man. I've seen him jump over a boat. He's done it. He did it. He sunk the orca.
He sunk the orca.
Oh man. So yeah. So that was probably not one of my rock hard stoic moments.
Yeah, imagine the story that dolphin went back and told the pod.
That's exactly right.
You would not believe this dude. It was like standing there.
Yeah, I got this guy so good.
So good. He never knew I was there.
Yeah, he just, and I let him get right there and boom.
That is awesome.
Gosh. But that one, I mean, you can't beat that. And there's no way to explain that laughing as hard as you do unless you were there to see it. It's
right.
It's
just no. Yeah. I mean, I can picture it, but I would love to have been there to film it.
Yeah, and if it had happened today, sure enough, my buddy who saw the freaking thing would have been like, this is gonna look so good on TikTok, and he'd just be sitting there.
Yes. Other things body cams would have caught back in the day,
Yep. My thing has always been like, what if I was dumb enough, and of course it wouldn't have happened. What if I ended up actually letting loose on that guy? What would the use of force report look like?
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. He was close. He outweighed me. He was stronger than me. He had big teeth.
I was in fear for my life.
I was in fear for my life that the Kraken was coming to get me.
You see, LT, what had happened was
exactly. Given my my experience and training, said that that Kraken was within my reactionary gap. He posed the threat of serious bodily injury, that he was 8 feet long and had pointy teeth.
I had no idea what was lurking beneath the water that I could not see. So he was armed. Oh gosh, that'd be great.
And that's how they would have gotten me. I didn't know what my backstop was.
You're right. Oh gosh, the innocent shrimp that would have been in crossfire.
Oh yeah, that would have made me one of those year-end rookie legends.
Oh yes, yep. Forget the desk pop. Nope. We popped a flipper.
Yeah. Just killed Flipper. My name would have been forever Flipper too. If I'd have survived that incident, it would have been call sign Flipper.
Yes. Yeah. So speaking of, did you have a nickname?
It's always, given the name Stamp, it's always been, Stamp's a fun one to yell. And I didn't get yelled at a lot, but it's always a fun one to yell from the other office. So it's always been just Stamp or Stamper,
Okay.
Never any cool nicknames. I was on a couple task forces when you're the only bureau guy and suddenly you're immediately Johnny Utah because my name's John Stamp. You're immediately Johnny Utah because of Point Break, but that was short-lived. That was a short-lived task force, and I embraced it. I mean, who's better than Keanu Reeves? I'll take it. Yeah.
Yes.
He got Patrick Swayze. So
he did. Yes, he did. What What was the most exciting thing in a foreign country that you got to experience?
Foreign countries are just there. It's fun because the first couple times you go, you have no idea of the culture. You have no idea when you're stepping out of bounds, when you're when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. But I don't know about exciting, but in NCIS we were in Camp Lamania in Djibouti, Africa, and Djibouti is a real place because every time I say Djibouti, they're like, ha, Djibouti.
He said booty.
He said booty. That's exactly right. Yep. But we would go out and do different force protection things, go around to the different sites around the area and kind of just check them out. I mean, at the time, it's tightened up a little bit. I was there in 2011, but they had a couple incidents within that country since, so it's a little more tightened up than it used to be. But we had run of the city. We could do whatever we wanted. So we'd go out and do these different things. But one of the places where the base had a pretty good relationship was there was an animal preserve, like just in between the base and the Somali border was only 20 miles away or something like that. So we'd go out there and so we're out there and they had lions, ostriches, hyenas, all this cool stuff. And it's just sitting out in the middle of a desert. So we go out there one time and the guide's walking us around, showing us everything. And they were checking out, like a mule or something like that. And all of a sudden the guide just takes off right in between me and my buddy. And we look at each other and it's like they were moving with a purpose. So as I turn just in time to see an ostrich charging the group with that velociraptor freaking toe that it has. Yes. Going right at us. And some dude, he thinks better of it as he takes a swipe at us and then he backs off a little bit and starts doing that weird dance that they do. And this dude, I didn't even know he was there. He comes out wearing a sarong, got a fat lip of what's that stuff that they chew on? Cot. He's got a mouthful of cot and he's carrying a 2x4 and he just walks out to this ostrich that's losing its mind as we're all sitting there being like, I don't want to shoot an ostrich, but I don't want to get stabbed by that thing either. Right? And he just takes his 2x4 and he just holds it up in front of the ostrich. And the ostrich just stops and just stares at it. And we're all just shocked. We're like, what is happening? And this dude just cool as the day is long. He's just standing there holding the ostrich, looking bored. And the ostrich stops completely and he just starts staring at the board. And we're like, all right, I guess we're good now. I guess everybody's friends. And we're like, what just happened? And the interpreter's like, ostriches don't like anything that's taller than it is. So you guys no longer were the threat. He has a 2x4 hanging over his head. So he cannot handle looking up to something. And he just stopped. And that's, he starts pecking at the top of the 2x4. And I was like, that's how you stop a charging ostrich. That's cool. That's very cool.
All right, kids, write this down. Write
exactly.
It down.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll work with an emu because he's shorter, but but at that same place, I mean, these things are all just free roaming, and I would have never thought in a million years that some stupid turkey that's like 8 foot tall would try to attack us. But so this guy, he gets bored. Yeah, he gets bored. He takes off to go do his thing. The dude in the sarong, he's like, you guys are good now. Oh, okay. So we go walking around this place and we stop in a copse of like acacia trees. And the guide's like, okay, lions are over there. Stay as a group and don't make eye contact with a female. I'm like, we're at the zoo, man. Like, what? Okay, that sounds good. And me and my buddy are giggling like, haha, making, what are we going to pick on a lion that's in a pen? We come around this stand. And there's a giant acacia tree with a like 6 foot barrier of chicken wire that's just like stamped into the ground. And there's 2 lions in there. There's the old man, the old guy, the dude, he's just laying under the trees. He like cocks an eye at us and goes right back to sleep. And we're like, oh, there's a female. There's a female. And she's like, keep moving, keep moving. And as we look, the female is hanging on a branch. She's up, posed up, all coiled up like a cat getting ready to strike a mouse in a branch, eyeballing the entire group. And she's on a branch that's hanging over the chicken wire.
No.
So we're like, this is how things work. This is awesome. I get it. I'm going to stay right in the middle of this group. I'm thinking I'm like I'm like, I got a knife on my belt. I'm like, I could cut my buddy's hamstring right now, and I'm sure. I'm sure. I mean, he's a big, fast dude, but I'm pretty sure I could get him. I'm pretty sure I could beat him.
I don't have to be the fastest.
Yep,
I just go be
that's
faster
right.
than somebody else.
Yep. Who's the sacrifice? but this girl, I mean, she's a monster. She's sitting up there and she's all coiled up. Her eyes are just intent. And I think that was the first time I've ever actually been in the food chain. That I was like, yep, that's what it feels like to be a gazelle on the African savannah. Because this girl, if she wants us, she might not get all of us, but she only needs one. You know?
Right.
But she was like, yeah, maybe. Should I take that one? Should I get that one? I don't know. She's like, I got food coming, but that looks really good. Like, and you could just see, she's like, should I kill one of those things or not? And she made the right choice.
She did.
I think.
Of course. Yes.
But
American
it was just, yeah, it was just, and Africa was my favorite deployment I did, just because of that kind of randomness. Because the people were awesome. Like everybody, it's just the people were great. Everybody you talk to, they're hardworking people that they value education. They value education. They work hard. Whenever the contractors are on base, they were just easy to talk to, fun to talk to. But my buddy comes in the office one day and he's like, "Hey, the gendarme want hostage negotiator training." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's fun. We could do that." And he's like, "Well, you were one, right?" I was like, "I was one for like a year." He's like, "Well, let's do it." I'm like, "Let's do it." So we set up in this place called Fort Justice, and it's a decent like half-hour drive from the base every day. But the funny thing is, we had to time it right. Like you have to time commutes here in America. You'd have to time the cattle herd, the camel herd in Djibouti, because they'd push camels across the desert to put them on ships to go over to Saudi and a couple other countries. So like 3 times out of this week we're training these guys, we'd get stuck in a traffic jam where like the camels would just be wandering across, and if you looked interesting enough, they'd just stop, lower their head, and just stare at you through the window. And we're like, "We're on your time, bud." It's like, sure. But it is so funny that like we'd be doing scenarios. We'd have these guys doing scenarios like one time I'm sitting out there and I've got them, working on talking down a potential jumper right from the top of this roof. I'm just having these guys work through their techniques, work on rapport, work on the communication, and I just start seeing there's a bunch of camels walking through this base right now. Like we're in their National Law Enforcement Academy, and the camels are just wandering through, and I was like, all right, it's like we're playing street hockey and a car's coming. It's like, game off, everyone.
Car.
Car.
Game
camel.
on.
Yeah. So we just stopped, like 4 camels come walking through, and these guys had been talking for like 2 hours, and the camels just make their way, and it's like, all right, guys, have at it. Let's get ready. All right, scene.
Yeah. Take 2.
Yeah, take 2. But no, it was just that random stuff was just so entertaining. Just it's stuff you just
wild.
don't see. Yeah.
No, I mean I've had to stop and help a cow across the road, or I had an assignment in still in Metro Atlanta, but it was a county that still had a bit of a rural area to it, and I had sweet feed in my trunk to help get horses back into their pens or behind the fence or whatever. Camels, no.
I
mean,
they seem cool. Yeah,
they stink. From what I remember, I saw them while deployed to Jordan back in the 90s when I was in the Air Force. But I couldn't imagine halting a training exercise for Lulu and her friends to walk through.
Yep, pretty much. Just just let the camels through. But it was funny you mentioned that like on patrol on the islands one day, like right in the middle of the day, call comes across. Yeah, there's a cow blocking the road, and I stopped for a second. I'm like, yeah, it says city police right here. City police. Yeah.
Where'd Betsy come from?
Yeah. Well, what are we doing here? So sure enough, there's just a cow hanging out in the middle of the road. I walk up to the farmer, like, what are we gonna do? He's like, she's pretty stubborn. I'm like, okay, I don't know how to talk cow. Like, I'll be right here. And I'll try to handle the cars. You handle the cow. That's
Fair.
as far as I go.
Fair.
Yeah.
Move.
Yeah.
Move.
Yep. But I had the same thing happen. This is when I was activated with the Coast Guard. We were riding around in the middle of the night, further into up near outside the city, and we just roll up on a DNR, a truck that's got his flashers on, and we pull up next to him, like, "Hey, what are you doing?" There's a DNR guy just standing there in the road, and we come around the front of the truck, and there's like a 11-foot alligator just sitting in this road. And I'm like, "Well, did you hit him?" He's like, I didn't hit him." He's like, "But we got to get him out of the road." I'm like, "I'm not trained for this." Like, we? What's this? Yeah, what's this we?
Nope.
So I'm like, this is going to be awesome. So I look at my partner. I'm like, "Yep, we're here to help, but we're going to help back here."
Yes.
And
I'll stop the traffic.
Yep. At 2:00 in the morning on a country road, I'll handle the traffic. So I'm like, I can't wait to see how he's going to wrangle a gator out of the road. And he goes back to his toolbox and he pulls a tow strap with a big freaking buckle on it. And he just starts swinging it like a lasso. I'm like, this is going to be great. He walks right up next to this thing and just whaps it right in the butt. And the tail flashes around so fast and catches him in his calf. I'm like, uh-oh. That's not how I would try to get an alligator out of the road.
Not me.
But sure enough, he recovers. He didn't go down. I was like, if I gotten hit that hard, like I would have been down. And but he just dances a little bit. He giggles. I'm like, you've done this before.
He giggles.
Yeah. I'm like, I was about to scream, but you giggled. I get it.
Okay.
Yeah. And the alligator just grunts at him like he's like, fine. And after a couple whaps in the butt, this thing just rolls off the street. I'm like, no. Yeah, that's another one. I don't herd alligators. Yeah.
I've heard of herding cats before, but not alligators.
Nope. No, that's funny. I was like, good job, bud, because I would never thought of that.
Attention veteran business owners. Do you want an easy way to be certified as a veteran-owned business? Do you want a better way to show it off in the same hard-charging fashion as our old unit patches? Do you want an easier way to be found and get business write-ups, more interviews, social media promotion, and more? VABOA.net has your 6. Get access to over 20 hard-charging digital badges for web and social media shares that shows you are a certified veteran-owned business. You've earned it. Show it off. Visit avboa.net today and use code KNOCK6, that's KNOCKSIX. Get your digital badge today. So how long were you paired up with the Coasties?
I joined in, just being a bunch of people were Coast Guard reserves.
Oh, okay.
So in 2000, I joined up just to, just because I kind of always had an interest in the military, and I just went to the police side. So I was like, yeah, let me try this. Let me try the Coast Guard thing. And so I just did it to get on the water and kind of see what that world was. And then 9/11 kicks off, and everybody's activated because a big loadout's going out through the Charleston Harbor. So my entire service during like Operation Enduring Freedom, it was Enduring Freedom, was driving a pickup truck around Charleston Harbor. So
hey,
but hey, alligator wrangling.
Hey,
not everybody's. That's an untold part of Operation Enduring Freedom right there.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That would be a great bullet point for your resume.
Alligator wrangling. Yep.
Alligator wrangling.
Well, assisted alligator wrangling, because I wasn't getting near that dude could have stayed there as long as he wanted. I wasn't. Who am I to tell an alligator where he's supposed to catch some sun?
Yeah, once again on the food chain and not the highest.
That's exactly right. Yeah. But no, that was some interesting times.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so if you were to compare yourself to the great show Chips, were you a Ponch guy or were you a John guy?
Oh, I hate to say it, but those guys were a little like, I remember 21 Jump Street more than I remember Ponch and John. I guess I think I would probably go. I remember TJ Hooker.
Okay,
I was like,
all right.
What's Captain Kirk doing? As a police officer. And yeah, so but
They
no,
could
as far as Punch
totally
and John goes,
they could totally wind that into a storyline about Captain Kirk being lost in time from the Enterprise, and he ended up as a cop in 19 whatever. You know, I could see that.
I can see that, but you remember all their fighting styles in Star Trek were always like really, really open, standing, like
Oh, that's true.
pausing to do those like double fisted punches. And I'm like, Captain Kirk is getting his ass kicked on the street. Yeah. Yeah. Wait, there's 4 of you? I don't take on 4 people. I'm one of you, and I'm going to swing my punches like this.
Yes,
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe those phasers would be cool.
they would be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Set them to stun. You know,
Yeah.
the precursor to the taser.
Precursor to the taser. Yeah. That and also no wires. So
No wire. Yeah,
hopefully
wireless
the battery.
The wireless taser.
That's right. I was like, this thing's awesome. Yeah.
Yes. All right. So sorry,
Yep.
didn't mean to interrupt. Go, John or Punch.
I would have to. I don't know. Well, that's a tough one because I've never been like that intense of a person, so I can't say. I maybe I don't know who's the more laid back one because it's
Definitely John.
Okay, I'd go John then. Yeah.
Okay, and he had the cool truck, and he wore the brown leather instead of the black leather, so he would sort of stood out a little bit.
Yeah, never been a black leather guy. Always more Indiana Jones than John Wick for sure. Yeah.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah. Sorry, you got me with that reference.
All right. Well, I'll bring it back then. On you mentioned Third Watch, and that was one of my favorite in the '90s, late '90s, early 2000s. Who's your favorite character there in Third Watch?
At that time, of course, being a high school kid, it'd be the young guy who's always running. Like every episode, that guy can't stop, but that guy can't help himself but getting in foot pursuits. And I'm like, at the time,
who was it?
Roscoe? Was it Roscoe?
That sounds right. Started with an R.
Short-haired dude that they're always like, go get him, son.
Yes, yeah. God, not Rico. It's not Roscoe. Maybe it was Roscoe.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. I always thought when I think about like the TV shows and stuff, sorry, I just had something in my throat, but I always like the idea of being like a less dreary Fox Mulder. You give me anything, I'll go try and figure out what it is. But I'm also not going to be like the gloomy pseudo pre-emo that Mulder always seemed like he was. He's Fox. Pre-emo. Yeah. Didn't he always have that vibe? Like he's sitting down in the basement of the Hoover building and go out and do this cool stuff. And, you just had a great time, whatever you happen to be doing or figuring out. And he's go back like, huh. It's like, come on, dude. Live a little.
So were you a big XFiles fan then?
I like the XFiles because I like that idea of just going out and trying to figure stuff out, and I like the contrast of the law enforcement, that strict, especially the bureau's like hierarchy of that strict, just a fax man life,
right? Compared
to we're not sure if this person just got molested by a Bigfoot. I'll go figure that out. Yeah. So yeah, that actually probably played into like my first novel, Shattered Circle, was the first one I came up with because I was like, what can I do? I can take like the most straight-laced like detective I can think of, and I'm gonna put him up against a blood magic cult. Yes, I'm gonna give you a triple murder with a cult that practices magic based on power they get from blood. Good luck.
Wow. Good. Okay.
Yeah. So
go forth.
Go forth and conquer. Let's bring all this protocol right into having a demon coming at you. Let's see how this works. And I never believed in and I don't know how much of a fiction reader you are, but in those worlds they always have like, sure, the hero starts off as, oh, woe is me, how do I fight this big giant enemy? And then like 3/4 of the way in they figure out like, well, your great uncle 3 times removed was like the grand wizard of the druids, and you happen to be like the sole source of all the magical energy in the universe. So that guy's screwed when you actually go after him. Yeah. Like, no, my guy has, he's got Glock 21 and some handcuffs. And he's got any of his buddies that are dumb enough to come with him. And that's all they got. Yeah. I might have given one of them a shotgun and maybe one of them an M4, but that's about as far as you go. Have at it. Have at it, fellas.
So that sounds, in the 80s, late 80s, or I guess maybe mid 80s, cults were a big thing. Satanism was like the big evil in America, and there were a couple of movies that came out. One was Sylvester Stallone. Was it Cobra?
Cobra was awesome.
Yeah, and then there was a comedy with Tom Hanks, Dragnet, where they had to go after the cult. It was always an interesting subject matter. So I'm not a big book reader, but I think I am going to pick up this book, so I can figure out how the Glock beats the magic wielding magic wielding Satanism.
Yeah, definitely wasn't easy.
Wasn't easy. Okay.
Yeah, but right. And I always say if my characters knew who I was, they'd kill me. They'd absolutely
they'd come after
if
you.
I didn't come out, they would burn the house down around me.
There is a story for you, right there. All of your
characters come alive.
Characters come alive, and then they have to come after you for answers for all of the dark crap that you put them through.
Yeah, why did you do this to me?
Yes,
that's right.
Sure is your next novel.
Yeah, that could work. That'd be going deep and dark, looking at my own motives.
Yeah. See, yeah. I mean, personal reflection. Help you work through some trauma, some PTSD stuff.
That's right.
And you could do it like Stan Lee, or just have your own cameos in all of your books.
Yeah, and they'd be like, so you did all of this just because you never got to investigate a cult?
This is why I'm here?
This is why I'm here.
This is it?
Yeah. By the way, your grammar sucks.
That's right. Yeah, I hear this coming for you.
Oh, it'd just be the start.
Just the start.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. But yeah, that's just I like that outside the box stuff, and bringing that into the sometimes the strict procedures that we have. Trying to do stuff right, get it through court, staying within those lines. Yeah. So that's where a lot of it comes from.
What's court? What's court?
Yeah.
A lot of agencies aren't doing court, these days. Plead them out.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, that's a while. I remember court. I used to go to court all the time. I loved going to court. Yeah, but I
got paid the overtime.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I time all my my municipal court for right after midnight shift, and just boom, I don't even have to go home.
I loved it when the bad guy would say, "I'll see you in court." I'd be like, "Great, I'll get the overtime." You have to take time off of work. I'm getting paid to be there.
Yep, that's right. And your lawyer's going to want to plead before you even get in the door. So
that's right. And you're paying him for that.
You're paying for that too. And I still get to keep your car.
Yeah. Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, good times. Good times.
Yeah, that's great. Oh. Yeah.
Well, I see you're here. You're a bourbon fan. Do you have a well drink that you keep at the house in stock for, just cause occasioncies or bad day occasioncies? What's your go-to?
More often than not, if I'm drinking bourbon, it's just a one or two. But I like lately it's been if I can find it, it's 1792. Or my stock is Makers. If I'm just running home and I'm in a hurry, because I like to go to the. We got a really good liquor store here on the island I live on, called Shorebirds. But the guy who runs it, he's passionate about it. Like he's just like, "Hey, have you tried this?" I walk in, he's like, "Hey, have you tried this one?" And so if I got time, I'm just like, I'll be the guy standing in front of the bourbon, being like, "That looks cool. That looks pretty cool." Yeah. But if I'm on the run, I'll grab a bottle of Makers. But and if not that, it's usually Makers, Buffalo Trace, or 1792. But I am one of those people who can be very affected by labels. So if I see something that really looks cool, I'm like, I'm gonna try that.
Yeah.
My buddy showed up with one. Where were they? I think it's out of Atlanta. But he showed up with one called Tire Fire at one point. and it
Mm.
did exactly what it was supposed to. It tasted like a burning tire. And
Really?
but as I'm sitting there, I'm like, I can get used to this. It's
Really?
the weirdest thing. Yeah, it was,
Yeah.
I think it's a distillery up your way. But it was like they got a really good selection, but the one I remember was Tire Fire. I was like, I'm gonna hate this, and I was like, yeah, I could take some more.
Okay. All right. I'll have to look that one up.
Yeah.
There are a bunch of craft distilleries popping up all over the place, all over the country, but certainly here in Georgia. And we've got one that's called Old Fourth Distillery in the Old Fourth Ward section of Atlanta, and that's a really good one that I enjoy when you can find it. There's a new one that's just opened up in my hometown called Legends. They've got a good one, but my go-to is, and not that this is a bourbon show, it could be, there's a brand called Benchmark, and they have a really low end. It's like $8, and that's awful. Don't waste your $8. Just go ahead, flush it down the toilet if you have to spend it. But they have a full proof that's in our area is about $26. And it's 126 proof, and it drinks like it's 90 proof. And I do it neat. I'll make my Manhattans out of it. It is fantastic for $26. You can't beat it. Next is Bullet Rye for me. Those are my two well drinks at the house. But much like you, if there's a cool bottle, I'm gonna try it.
Yeah, I can be easily swayed by marketing, but yeah, Bullet. I'm a fan. I'm not huge on rye, but Bullet's right up there. If I see it, I'll take it. But my thing is, I've always I don't know where it came from, but I drink everything out of a coffee mug. It's and it's to everybody every time all of my friends. If I show up and we're drinking, they'll just show up with a coffee mug. Might be whiskey. You never know what's sitting in there.
Never know.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But I'm only on the other side of the state. I might be able to find that Benchmark. I was about to say Benchmade.
So I called it Benchmade a couple times, and the store owner that I go to, the little Stop and Rob, he's like, no, not Benchmade, Benchmark. It's the benchmark for all others. It's the Benchmark. And I'm like, oh,
that makes sense now.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
I don't know where that one's made from. I should know that, as many bottles of I've gone through, but it's good. If you haven't tried it, definitely try it. For those who can find it,
I'm in.
They have a barrel proof that's just over 90 proof. So those are the top two. They're like $25 and $27, something like that. Don't buy the $8 one. You'll hate me. So look for the proof value. 126 proof or the 90 plus proof, and they're good.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that, because it's like back to Africa and then some of the other places. We, as you know, we'd have kind of the run of the city, and I'll tell you, the liquor doesn't always translate the same to different parts of the world. It's like the consistency I found was Jameson, but like, you're in the mood for like a rum or something like that, you go get some Cap Morgans or something like that. It's not always the same. So it's not really the same.
It's
same
funny
thing with like
that.
same thing with pop and Coke and stuff like that. I'm sure you've noticed that when you were deployed. But yeah, it's always like, oh, Jameson. Okay, Jameson's the same here as it was in the last place. I'm gonna stick with that today.
That's interesting. When I was in Jordan, we could go off base. It was just prior to Kobar Towers being attacked. We go to this little restaurant right outside our tent city, and they had Heineken or Amstel Light. Those were the two beer choices, and they were not consistent with their ABV at all. Yeah. You could drink one and be absolutely hammered and think that's all that you need, and we'd go back like a couple days later, and we'd have 4, 5, 6, and it was like drinking just water. Like there was, so that's interesting. I didn't realize it was like the rest of the world that way.
And when you're in that deployed environment, you're looking for that quick punch, because it was when it was in Djibouti, it was on base. It was 3 a night. You can get 3 a night. So it'd be once you're there a little bit, it's like, instead of like going for 3 drinks, you go to the bartender like, I just want 3 fingers, crown, whatever you got. Just hit me up, going for power, and then
That's right.
Cutter same way. Just I need some. I'm gonna go to sleep. So, but it's like you see people popping beers like, oh, rookie, like
right, yeah, wasting calories, stomach space, and time.
Yep, but yeah, it's funny going out on town in different places. I don't know how they do it. I'm sure there's a reason. Like I don't know, but it's weird because that you got a bottled beer in front of you, and it's like, what happened?
Right?
Would somebody steal the alcohol off cargo ship and just put the rest in?
They just put some food coloring in the water. What are we doing here? Yeah,
there's a process.
It was strange. Yeah, it was strange. I mean, they were all coming out of Germany. See, and Germany has very strict purity laws with their beer. So I don't know. It was weird.
Yeah, that's weird. That's funny. I drink beers every now and then, but I'm usually a bourbon drinker when I'm overseas. Yeah.
We didn't have the luxury of liquor. Inside Tent City, we had a beer tent because we were the Air Force, so we did get beer in a Domino's, Pizza Hut, and a Burger King hut,
Yep.
But we had
Green Mountain Coffee.
Yes.
Yeah.
We had ration cards. You'd get a stamp. You could have 3 a night. That was it. And I'm not a smoker, never have been, but I would bring cartons of cigarettes with me, and I would trade packs of cigarettes for beer ration cards. And you would just wait for a different person to be pulling on the tap to go, start the next one. And that's how we got around them.
Yeah, it's the underground economy. That's how the world. That's how the world thrives.
Yeah. The Army, and I think the Marine Corps both boast their E4 mafia. Well, the Air Force, we had the same. We had an E4 mafia as well. Yeah, we were just a little more sophisticated.
Yep, and that's when I was over there. It was as an 1811, so it was like they don't really know what to do with you anyway. So they're just like, oh, okay, he's out doing an investigate. Yeah, we're investigating. We're investigating. We're investigating where the nearest liquor store is, and is it safe?
Is it safe?
Yeah.
We're checking security protocols here. That's what we're.
That's right. I'm just making sure that tape, it goes up to at least 666 on the door, so we know who's robbing. Yeah.
Gotta know where he is.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
We're investigating. Yep. What are you investigating? Yes, we are. Yep. Need to know.
I can't talk about it. Yeah, not cleared for this.
Oh, to have that much fun overseas, that would have been awesome.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that, like you said, the things you just roll in on. It's, one day my buddy who was the admiral's security guy, he's just like, hey, I got nobody else. Is like, you come in on a detachment. We got to go right around to a couple places on the outskirts. And I'm not a protective services guy. I'm not, and I'm just like, I'm here. Not my thing. But because I don't like staring at doorways or watching a dumpster or standing with my back to a cargo plane for 9 hours. I just can't get into it. My attention span doesn't last that long.
Okay, I'm with you.
But I'm like, yeah, he's like, one of my guys is down. Can you just roll with me? I'm like, fine, all right. He's like, there's lunch in it. I'm like, sweet, I'm in.
Okay.
So like we're talking about the random things you just run into. We're running through this little village because we're stopping off construction sites in different places. Somebody's building a school, somebody's putting in a well, stuff like that. And I'm sitting in the seat and watching everything and looking down these little alleys and these little brick huts and stuff. If this village even had electricity, I would have been amazed. And as I'm looking, I see this little kid down his alleyway, and he's maybe 7 years old, maybe. And he's just dead-eyeing me. He's just staring at me, just dead-eyed. And he goes like this. He goes, and I was like,
Cena.
What is that? Yeah. And for, if we're on a podcast, I'm waving my hand like John Cena back in front of my face. But so I'm sitting there, I'm like, what did that kid just do? I'm like, is that a sign or something? And the MA behind me, he's like, yeah, he just John Cena'd you. I'm like, who is John Cena?
Oh.
And he's like, you don't know professional. I'm like, I sorry, bud. I don't know professional wrestling. He hasn't been in Transformers yet. I don't know who he is. so he's like, yeah, that guy just John Cena. I'm like, how does a 7-year-old in the middle of Africa know who John Cena is, or to throw that sign my way like he's in a gang?
Gang signs.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna keep that one. I'm gonna remember that for a long time. Just
That's
trying
awesome.
to figure out the logistics of how this little guy just did that to me.
Yes. What BBC station was carrying American wrestling?
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, that's a good one. I'm gonna remember that. Yeah.
Wow. I guess we have to blame the intrawebs, for that one blip of service that they got on that one day, and that was what they saw.
That's what they saw. It was like, oh, Americans are huge. Americans are huge. They wear really long shorts, and they act like teenagers. Sweet.
Sweet. Yes. You can't see me.
You can't see me. I'm like, yeah, I can see you, but I just don't know what you're doing.
That is awesome.
Yeah, but that, oh man, that's just that sticks out in the mind. It's just funny. That's like, sweet. That's fun. Yeah. This is my gig. This is what I do.
That's what. See, now aren't you glad you took that little excursion that one day?
Oh, yep. See, but otherwise I was like, I don't want to stand outside watching a car. Don't be doing that. I'm not standing outside 140-degree heat watching a car, dude.
Nope, not for me.
Yeah.
Oh.
Nope.
Well, yeah. John, what's next for you?
I got my new book, Blood Red Ivory, came out January. The audiobook, my first audiobook, thanks to Wild Blue Press, came out in May.
Plug.
Yeah, a little plug to Wild Blue, but I'm working on that. The feedback's been awesome. I'm just having a ton of fun with it, and I threw an NCIS agent out in the middle of Zimbabwe, Africa. Had him working a homicide case while stuck in between a wildlife preservation ranger team and a ivory traffickers. So just see what happens. Kind of a Wild West, of a Wild West type thing.
But not a spaghetti western.
No, we weren't in Italy, so we were in Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe.
Yeah, Zimbabwe. Yeah. Same hemisphere, maybe? No, maybe different hemisphere.
Maybe south of the equator.
Yep. So I'm working on that.
That sounds pretty interesting. I'm sure if he came alive and showed up at your living room, he'd have some questions for you.
He would really not be happy. Ty Benhoff, I purposely named. I like the character I developed. He needed a story, but I didn't want to name the guy like Mitch Cliffjumper or something like that. I didn't want to give him an action hero name. So I was like, Tyrone Benhoff? Yeah, Polish dude who just happens to be an NCIS agent. Sweet. Nobody's going to think of that. So I'd take him, have an assistant director, who wants to run him out of the agency, throw him into the middle of nowhere, Africa, no backup, and he's all by himself working one thing while everything around him he does not understand until he's wrapped up in the middle of it. And then, the tagline is some cases just solve, some cases just survive. But yeah, I'd be the first one he punched when he got home.
Okay.
That'd be his immediate move. So I'm working on his second adventure right now, about halfway through the draft on that. Like you said, the podcast I just started, that's a whole new world that it's just fun. I like you say, you get to sit down and talk to random people about interesting stuff, and that's the gig. I'm like, that fits perfectly with me,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm
if you think about what we cops do, right? We want to learn. We're nosy. We want to learn what everybody else is doing, right? Search warrants, traffic stops, that kind of stuff. I mean, we're just curious. And in this format, we get to meet new people, ask questions, and learn what's going on with them. And every new one is different. So yeah, this is the right world for people like you and me to be in.
Yeah, it's the nice side of the interview room.
Yeah, yes,
it's the interview room before it becomes the interrogation room.
Yeah, but pre-business interview.
That's right. Yeah, we get to do the report phase and then say cut, and then if that particular call does join the interrogation phase, that might be a really interesting podcast.
That really could. Yes, that really could. Yeah. So what you're saying is
Let me break this down a little bit because I think we need some clarification.
Yes. Yeah.
And now I'm a civilian now, so I don't have to read your rights.
You don't? Yeah. No,
Yeah.
no. So where were you in the time in question?
Yeah, exactly. But in addition to working on what's next, I got a couple of book conferences coming up. One in Cape Canaveral in June, another one in Clearwater, Space Coast Books in June, Clearwater, Florida in September for Books at the Beach. I choose business where I can enjoy myself.
As you
And
should.
I got yeah, exactly. And I'm going back to Charleston at the end of July for a book signing on the 29th. So this gig's awesome. Like you said, this is, you're curious creatures by nature. So doing a podcast, going out and just talking to random people who just happen to love books it fits me perfectly, And but I always come back to it, and I don't know. You read Joseph Wambaugh?
No.
Have you ever read Choir Boys? So Wambaugh was a cop in LAPD, took off to writing books, kind of built the cop fiction world.
Okay.
And but I was like 20 years into my career until before I found this quote that he did, and I'll butcher it, so I'll summarize it. But he in explaining the police officer once, he said that police are not danger lovers. They're creatures of essentially curiosity, even to their own peril. They're not there for the danger and the excitement. They're there to just be there to experience all those things from the height of humanity to the lowest low. That's what police officers are. It's not like we're going out to look for. We're not looking to get in gunfights, but we want to be there when the big things happen. When the big things happen, we want to be a part of it. And I was like, I'm like a long ways into my career. I'm like, yeah, he nailed it. I'm like, he got me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not. You're right. It's not the action we look for. It's the opportunity to be there when it happens, so that you can be a part of it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right.
And do your best. You want to be a positive aspect of it, but but yeah, we don't want to be on the side of the bus. But if it does happen, we want to be in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's interesting. I like that.
Yeah, he nailed it. Yeah.
I'm this many days old when I learned this.
Nice. I'll send you the quote.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, I butchered it.
I mean, it's still profound enough for me because I agree with it, butchered or not.
Yeah. Well, that guy's my Yoda. He doesn't know it. I've never talked to him, but he's my Yoda. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Where can people find you?
Mostly Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all the different places. That's Criminal Podcast on Apple, Spotify. I'm 10 episodes in, and it's basically what we're doing now. I talk to authors, true crime authors, podcasters, pretty much anybody. It started out with like a crime centric thing, but if somebody interesting pops up, like somebody hit me up the other day about they write international thrillers. I'm like, yeah, let's talk. I'm in it for interesting people and to have fun conversations. So it's my thing. So it's probably going to evolve a bit, but yeah, I kicked it off. That's Criminal with John Stamp, and we do just what we're doing now. I get interesting people who want to talk to me, and that's what we do.
That's awesome. Yeah. I've got some introductions that I can make for you. We'll talk about that once the recording ends. But any last minute thoughts, stories, anything you want to get off your chest?
No, not really. I like what we were talking about before. It's I'm not an expert on anything, but just I appreciate the opportunity to come meet with you. I love the podcast. I wanted to be a part of it. So this has been a lot of fun. And again, I'm just in it to write entertaining stories for people and find interesting people to talk to. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a blast. I certainly have had a lot of fun in learning about alligator wrangling.
That's right.
How to ward off charging ostriches. And John Cena's all over the world.
It's the weird stuff you run into, man.
It is. This has been an absolute blast. Episode 25 of the Knock and Talk Show with my guest, John Stamp. I'll have all the links that he provided for me down here for you to click on and find him. Make sure you check out That's Criminal with John Stamp. I can't wait to start listening to some of those. Now I know that it exists and where to find it. Folks, as always, please hit the like button, subscribe button. Let us know what you would like to hear from us, subject matters and such. If you want to be on the show, click the any of the links to email me, and always looking for great guests. And John, again, my new friend, thank you for coming on the show. It was a lot of fun.
I appreciate it, Patrick. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So until next time, folks, stay safe and be well.
The Knock&Talk Show is a certified veteran-hosted podcast. Show your support. Tune in, share, and subscribe.